Hey, hey.
Oh man, I'm
Howdy.
pumped. I wanna dance. Feel like the beat's about to drop.
Oh, man. We got energy tonight.
Yes, sir.
Yes, let's go. Let's go. We're breaking records tonight.
That's an intro, huh?
Yes, sir. We need Jake on here just to get us fired up every night.
I know,
man.
that's
awesome.
it.
Let's go.
He's like our live stream, like our he's our, I don't want to say he's like the cheerleader. He's like our energy captain. That sounds
I like it. I like it. I like it.
Energy captain.
Energy captain. I'll take it.
Oh, man. Jake, what's up, man?
Oh, real quick. Tell me your Instagrams real quick because I want to know. Because people want to know where you're at on Instagram.
Oh, I believe. Gosh, is mine? Yeah, Castle Hives. I had to look.
Bruce's Castle Hives. I found it. Bruce, do you have an Instagram?
B-Man Bruce.
B-Man
Bruce.
B-Man Bruce.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
B-Man Bruce. There we go. Yeah.
I tried to get Bruce's bees, but somebody had already taken it, so that kind of.
Yeah, there's like 2 Bruce's bees. I saw that.
Yep.
It's like an imposter.
I'm telling you.
Oh, man. Does that imposter Bruce's bees also wear the mullet A hat?
No.
There he is.
Oh, man.
Jake, that's an Alabama hat he's referring to there,
Yeah.
in case you didn't know. But
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
anyway, man, it's so good to have you on, Jake.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Here to bring the energy.
Yes, sir. Tell us what's going on up there in Missouri, and how is it cold up there? I imagine it is, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so cold. I don't want to go outside. Chores take forever. Everything's frozen. I don't know. I miss my bees.
Yeah.
Counting
Yeah.
down the days.
Yeah, when you get into bees, it means it's warm weather and it's much more pleasant, I'm sure, right?
I cannot wait. Oh man, like 2 months away.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's how it is here too. I mean, it's just it's cold, and they're calling for. They said 1 to 3, but more towards like lake effect areas. They're calling for 4+ more inches of snow tonight. So we'll probably get. We'll probably be in the middle of that range, and then next week, like I was saying, Bruce, you need to come on up here because next Monday and Tuesday we're going to have -10. So, yep, it's always fun. So, and I'm going to.
Why don't you brag about the weather in Alabama right now, Bruce?
Well, actually, it's a little bit chilly, but nothing like you guys have. Got back from the expo a couple of weeks ago, and those guys were driving through ice and snow, as were you. And I pulled in at 60 degrees down here that afternoon, and sent Brian and Greg a picture of my flag, with the beautiful blue skies behind it. But actually, it's unusually cold for us. It's not bitter cold like it is for you guys. But we've had several nights like in the low 30s, upper 20s. And then, it gets up in the 40s, 50s during the daytime, which sounds warm to you guys. But for us, that's kind of unusual. And they're saying this is going to be for us, and maybe for the whole country, more a record cold January, I think, for many years. And so, we're not dealing with having to scrape ice off of cars very often, or having to feed animals and cracking ice or trying to avoid slipping. But it does get it is colder here than usual. And I don't mind that, though. For the bees, I think it's okay. It keeps them, in a cluster, it keeps them from going out and consuming all their energy, trying to fly around and find something to eat. And it actually, I kind of like it if it's a little bit colder. I don't want it to be 8 degrees or 5 degrees or colder like you guys deal with sometimes, but I do like it to be, I like the bees to be in cluster a little bit more than what they typically are down here. So it hasn't been bad. It's been okay for us. But yeah, compared to you guys, we are pretty warm. Next week, we actually have a possibility of snow for a couple of days, which is like, if they even have a chance of flurries around here, they like shut everything down. It's kind of crazy. It's pretty funny. So we don't have any of the equipment, no salt. They don't have any equipment to deal with snow down here because we have a snow event like once every 10, 15, 20 years. It almost never happens. And a snow event down here, it's like people will drive. If it snows an hour north of us and really it does, but if it does, we get 3 or 4 inches of snow somewhere, people will drive to go see the snow. It's kind of crazy. So it's a little different down here for sure.
No, you're right about the weather thing. So I get my weather forecast from those YouTube channels that do the weather. Ryan Hall, y'all, is one of them. And I don't actually watch any of the videos. They just saw in the thumbnail, they put what area of the country is affected. And right now it has you guys highlighted on its thumbnail. So yeah, you're right. You're right I have been hearing about Atlanta and stuff like that. So I'm sure you guys are about to get it too.
We're about 3 hours kind of southwest of Atlanta, 3 to 4 hours southwest of Atlanta. So we're still even further south than that. We're basically, I am basically we're just right in the very corner of Florida and Georgia. So we're very, very southeastern part of the state. And so it's not, we're pretty mild here typically when it comes to cold weather, but we do get, we get what people, it's kind of hear the jokes about Southern people when it gets cold, if it's 55 degrees, they bundle up and they wear the beanie and the 3 layers of jackets and stuff like that. It's kind of true. It's not that bad, but people do, it'll be 40 degrees outside and people come into work in the morning. They're just like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's chilly, but it's not really cold. People down here have no idea unless they've lived up north what really real cold is. Yeah. But it is a little bit of it's kind of a raw cold. It may be that way in Missouri too. Maybe you too, Brian. It's kind of a raw, almost a wet type of cold lots of times. I'd almost rather it be kind of clear and 30 degrees than be rainy and 40, if that makes sense. It just seems like it's just so much more miserable if it's wet and cold at the same time.
Yeah. Have you now? I'm going to ask the both of you before we get talking about bees. Have either of you? I know Bruce probably never has, but have either of you ever done the little trick where you walk outside with the warmed glass of water and you throw it in the air and it freezes before it hits the ground?
No, because when it gets that cold, I don't want to be outside like at all. I've seen some other channels do that, and this is the 1 year anniversary of the Chiefs game that was like -30 wind chill or something here.
Yeah,
and people were having like beers that were freezing before they could even drink them and stuff. No, when it gets that cold, I'm like, I don't want to be outside at all. Like, I don't want to go outside and film Instagram content. No way.
I got you.
But yeah, it'd be fun to see. I agree, but I just enjoy like there's the channel that's like I'm gonna just talk about all YouTube channels tonight, just FYI guys. There's a channel that's like the coldest place on earth, and they're like -60 degrees like year round or something like that. And I watch their channel and I'm like, I don't feel so bad now when watching them like have to thaw out ice in the morning just to have like water to drink and oh my gosh, all the things they have to do to try to stay warm in -60.
I would.
I don't know.
Would not be enjoyable. So I have done that though. Years back, we hit negative, I don't know, whatever it was here in Ohio, and I thought somebody had mentioned it to me, and I thought, get out of here. So I looked it up, and I was like, well, I guess you can do that, and I did. I microwaved a little glass of water, walked outside and threw it, and I was like, well, I don't want to be out here any longer. But I might next week, Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to try and see where it's the coldest and see if I can't do that. So
what temp do you think it takes to freeze in the air? Is it
I don't know. Like, they're saying the -10 will be actual temperature, not, and that's not including the wind chill. And like where I'm at my place, we have wind that comes across the field. So we're all, we always have a little bit of a breeze, and the wind chill is always down some. So we'll see. I mean, I'll play around.
Yeah, I was out at college at BYU many years ago when I was a freshman, and it got down to -22 one night. It's the coldest I've ever experienced in my life that I can recall. And it was like, it's freeze the nose hairs type of temperature. You walk out, you take a shower in the morning, walk outside, you could feel everything just freeze. Your nose hairs, the hair on your head. I used to have hair, and all that kind of stuff would just freeze very immediately. And so, but I've seen people do it. I've never done it myself. I saw something really cool though a couple of days ago. I saw somebody blew a bubble when it was cold and like set it down, and then it froze the bubble. Yeah. I've seen that before. It crystallizes the whole. It was really neat to see. That'd be fun to try, but it never gets cold enough here for that. But Anyway, so Jake,
Well,
I know most people on here probably know who you are, but tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do at your channel, and then we'll dive into bees a little bit.
I think he's fixing up his audio there.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I screwed up.
No, that's good.
My
We
bad.
got you now. We can hear you good now.
I saw somebody saying something about my audio, and I went to fix it, and I clicked on headphones. I switched it to this, I think, and so then I couldn't hear you guys.
We
I
got you
got it
loud.
fixed.
We got you great
Sweet.
now. Yeah, great, loud
Okay.
and clear now.
Okay.
Cheers. Question.
Hey, we've never.
No, what's the question? Sorry.
Yeah, I know a lot of people on here. Most people probably know who you are, but for those who may not, tell us kind of a little bit about your story, who you are, and kind of what you're doing and what your channel's about, and then we'll dive right into the bees.
So I'm Jake. Channel's called White House on the Hill. We're in Northwest Missouri, and we started with like chickens, and then got into ducks and turkeys, and then we got into exotic birds, and then hatching a lot of birds. And then when we moved to our farm now 5.5 years ago, then we got bigger animals. We got cows, milk cows, we got horses, and we built a big aviary. And then when we moved here, then we got into bees. And so we started with just catching swarms, and I started with horizontal hives, and then now I've primarily with Langstroth hives with a few horizontal hives. So I've got about 20 hives, and that's kind of where we're at. And I've got a family. I'm married with, her name's Becky, and then our 4 kids that are ranging from 11 down to 3. And last time on here, our 3-year-old walked through naked right through there. So hopefully that doesn't happen tonight. But
Yeah,
stay
we had
tuned.
John.
Stay
Had John.
tuned. You never know what'll happen.
Yeah, we had you on a few months back, and that was pretty funny. But we had I really have enjoyed. I've watched some of your videos, and one of the ones that the first one I think I saw of yours was the one where the bees got inside your veil of your bee jacket, and you were kind of, as we all do, kind of a little bit freaked out by that. And so I was like, it kind of intrigued me. And then I've seen some more of your videos, and man, you guys just do a great job.
Mhm.
I know it's a lot of work for you. We had the opportunity to have dinner with you up at the Bee Expo, and Brian and I and Brian Lee and his son Andrew were able to talk to you for a while, and you and your entire family. And I must say, I think we were all went away impressed with your story and everything you're doing. And I think I speak for everyone on here to keep up what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes early on, and that's what that whole veil situation was my I guess my introduction into the bee world of having like a video go viral for the wrong reasons. And I don't know what that's at, but it's like over 20 million views or something. And so I think I probably lost a lot of credibility in the bee world because of that. But I think over the last few years, getting a mentor and getting more in tune with the whole bee community, I think I've learned more. Don't know everything, but I've learned more of what to do. And so the last 2 years have started to really go well with our bee setup.
Yeah. Yeah. But before we really dig into the bees, though, I just have to say the one thing that the expo does is connects you with folks. And we always say, and there's a phrase that Bruce says, Greg says, bees are the conduit. And getting to sit down and you shake hands, and then you can break bread, you have a nice meal. That is just, you can't put a value on that. So just want to say, I mean, it was fantastic meeting you. So, and sitting down and meeting your family and, just spending that time, it was a good time. So, but the bees, I can say, I don't think I filmed when I had my boo-boo kind of like yours. I was checking a horizontal hive one time and had, oh gosh, I think from my neck up, I took about 13 stings. And I took one in my nose. I felt it get me, and then I just squeezed just to kill it. And all of my colonies, they're at my mom's place. They just have been there since I started. And I walked up to her place after and knocked on the door, and I said, "Hey, can you get me tweezers?" And she's like, "For what?" I said, because I got a bee in my nose. So yeah, we've all been there. You know, we all go through a learning curve. You know, and then the one thing like that I did several years back, I had a moment where I lost literally all of my colonies over a winter. I went out and I went into the winter with 5, and I go out and you check one and dead, go to the next one, dead, next one, dead. And it was just like, oh my gosh, you know. And I took that moment to, I think, kind of do what you did, just take a step back and learn from it and kind of get more connected with like the community and more connected with information that's out there to kind of become a better beekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you can do. I mean, you just continue on. And I was earlier today, I'm getting a PowerPoint just together for some presentations, and I saw this. It said fail is first attempt in learning. I
There you
love
go.
it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I loved it. You know?
Yeah,
So
I see a lot of. I was gonna say I see a lot of people that say you need to research more. Or, yeah, and it's like I love to jump in. So that's I agree with that. I felt like I knew the questions to ask once I learned from my mistakes.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, we didn't mention that Greg's not on tonight. He is in transit, I think, or he's doing something else. He wasn't able to make it tonight. He's out of pocket tonight. So we hate it. He would have been great to have on here because he's the guy that has the commercial beekeeping experience. But I think we're going to be able to have a really good discussion, and we hope all is good with him. But anyway, Jake, tell us a little bit about kind of what your current situation is. You've talked about the homestead a little bit, but with the bees specifically, kind of where are you at and where you're looking to go, and maybe we can dive into the bee thing here a little bit and just kind of discuss some things. And I actually put in the comments here, if anyone wants to ask any questions, just throw it in there in all caps. That'll be easier for us to see, and we'll try to get to them if we have a chance as the chat goes on.
We started about 5 years ago. We caught a few swarms. I learned. I went to a talk that I heard Dr. Leo Sharashkin from Southern Missouri. He's a big into horizontal hives. And he talked about catching swarms and getting into beekeeping for free. And I heard free and thought, wow, that's my kind of beekeeping. And it's been nothing close to free, but that was my hook into beekeeping. And so I put up a lot of swarm traps and I caught some swarms. And then when I tried to move them in, it was a mess. I ended up like putting the wrong size frame. I didn't test my frames in my hive, and the frames didn't move over great. But it was all a learning experience. And so we went from a couple horizontal hives to maybe 4 or 5. And then every year we've grown. So now 5 years later, we're at about 20 hives. I think we did a lot of splits. We started last year with 7. Probably split it up to 15-ish. And then probably caught the other 5 through swarms. Some on our farm and a few in the towns around us. And so this year, I'm not quite sure where we're going to go from this, because I think we talked about it a little bit last time. Like, I feel kind of maxed out at 20. It felt like it was pretty overwhelming at times. But hoping to probably split a few. I mean, hopefully, if everybody survives the winter, get it up maybe to 25, and then maybe start selling some nukes from there. I definitely would like to. I have all the equipment to raise my own queens. I haven't given it a shot yet, but I'd like to start that this year.
So you feel like, I know we talked about some of the things that are limiting you and honey production and things like that. So you're trying to get up to 25 total, or you just want to kind of slowly progress and get even past that? Do you have an ultimate goal, or you're just kind of trying to play it by ear and see where you end up?
I mean, 20 was pretty overwhelming. I'm hoping with my 2 sons, Eli might come in here tonight. I'm not sure. I told him about it. He might pop in for a few minutes. He came with us to the conference. And so Eli and Uriah, they're 11 and 9, and they got their own hives this year, and I helped them with it, but they harvested their own honey. Uriah harvested his own honey. and got to sell it and make the money from it. And so I think they're getting kind of motivated there with seeing the fruits from their labor and taking care of a hive. And I think they're really enjoying it. So I'm hoping, one, that they can start to progress and maybe take care of a few hives. And then, that I love testing out different hives. I know I've seen you, Brian, test out some different hives this past year. And so I love trying out. We've got five or six flow hives. And so they're fun to play with. And, and then catching swarms, I have a lot of fun doing that. And so there's a lot of things I really love about it, but I don't know if I can get, we'll see. I'll see if I can get much past 25 and how I feel, because it's tough I probably get maybe 1 to 2 days a week to go out and work with them with all the other stuff going on, and then video editing and stuff like that.
You know, that it's funny because the number that you said, around 20, that's the number that a year ago, so it would have been, well, I guess we're 2025 now, I guess it would have been in the 2023 season, I got up to 21, and it was too much. I just I still work the 9-to-5 job, and I have a dedicated amount of time that I can go and spend with the bees. And when I when I got to the upper teens and broke 20, it became more like just work. And I don't like that. I like my bees to always stay like a hobby where I can go, and if I want to sit for 15 minutes, whatever it is, 20 minutes and just watch them, I want to do that. When I broke 20, it was difficult, but part of, I guess, the reason why it was difficult for me was I didn't have all of the equipment to make all of the processes as efficient as what they could be.
Yeah.
That was a limiting factor for me. So, and then also, I don't think all of my skills were up to the level where I could manage that many. So now I've learned since then, and this year I'm not saying that I will be around 20, but I do have some boxes ordered from Greg. So we'll see. We'll see. But,
yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'll be using some of Greg's boxes, but I love having kind of an artsy yard, and so we paint a lot of our beehives, and that takes a lot of time. But I think I just love, I know it makes it so easy for me to remember. My red hive was really aggressive this past year, and then Uriah's hive was the purple hive, and so it made it really easy to identify. But as we get more, now I'm starting to do stripes, because I've done all the solid colors, and so now I've got to do white with the color, and then I've got to figure out the next thing to do after I fill that up. So that's one thing, is that it's fun, but then it's kind of time consuming. But then with Greg's, with being wax dipped, then y'all have to figure out a new way to keep track of them without the paint on them. How do you do it? How do you do it, Bruce? How do you keep track of so many hives?
Well, what I do is I really don't keep track of any particular hive in specifically. I've got them in all different kinds of equipment. My goal is to move over to Greg's boxes. Eventually, I've got a whole pallet of them ordered here in the next few weeks, and I'm going to try and, as boxes begin to rot and break down, I'm going to replace them with his boxes. I judge it more by the colony in the box more than the specific spot on a pallet or in the bee yard. I've got around 100 plus colonies, a little over 100 right now. Probably going to build back up to around 140 or 150 this year is my goal. And so it's got efficiency is key. And I've kind of shifted from the mindset of the hobbyist. I'm more into the sideliner, and even in some aspects, a commercial beekeeper mindset, to where I look at each colony more as a unit. And it's like I kind of judge it, and I never know what I'm going to see. I can't. Now, if I have a real winner, like a hive that's really, a colony that's really busting at the seams, that I may want to really focus on, or if I'm starting to get interested in doing some queen rearing stuff, I like to identify the super strong ones and just watch them. and see how they do. So I do have a few that I know, like this one sets itself apart. Or on the other side of things, if I have some that are failing that I feel like I might need to check more, I don't always go in every colony when I go to the bee yard. Sometimes I don't even pop them open. But if there's one that I'm worried about, I may pop the lid every time I go out there and just see how they're doing. So instead of trying to, a lot of people keep records. I'm not good at that. I've never been a super organized record keeping type person. I should be. I don't do very well at that. But I just treat each one kind of like a unit. And then if they do happen to die out or not make it, I just kind of figure that it's just equipment I can use for the next year. Assuming it hasn't rotted, and if it has, I'll get rid of it, and then I'll replace it with one of Greg's boxes. Now is kind of my goal. So I'm kind of shifted from the hobbyist, mindset of each hive, and really trying to. I want to keep them all alive, but if one fails, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. It's like I learn from one of the ones that fail, but I can't always remember why or which one it was, if that makes sense. And so, but I've got all kinds of. I've got some boxes that are wax dipped that my friend and I wax dipped ourselves. I've got some that are copper dipped that I copper dipped, some that I bought copper dipped and painted from a commercial beekeeping supply company. I've got pallets. So I've got a little bit of everything. So that's kind of what I do. My biggest goal now is efficiency. And the last 2 or 3 years, I've struggled with that since I've been at these numbers, because it's kind of like you guys, we've all mentioned already on this chat. You get up to where you have a certain number, it becomes work, and efficiency is key. And so unless you can become more efficient, it's hard to grow anymore and still be able to do a good job. And my problem is I grow up to about 130 to 150 each year, and then I just can't quite keep up with things a little bit. And then I have to drop back. And then the next year I build up again. And it's worked out okay doing that, but I do hate to lose the colonies I lose. But I kind of figured that into my operation. And because of that, I have pretty much the equipment I need, and so I can just replenish the bees and the equipment that the dead outs are in, and then I can have the bees that I need going into the honey flow. And my main source of income with the bees is the honey at this point. So I don't know if that answered your question. I hope it did.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask at some point tonight, can we talk? We started to talk about it at the bee conference, but at some point tonight, can we talk about equipment? It doesn't have to be right now. It could be later. Like equipment that you guys recommend for harvesting, because that's something that I've got to start to think about and look into. And I'm sure if there's some other people out there that are kind of starting to get into where they are growing and they're getting past the hand harvesting harvesting every frame by hand is how we did it initially. And then we started to get an extractor and get a few things. I'd love to hear what you guys recommend for equipment.
Yeah, we can dive into that now.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think, Ryan?
Let me, before we jump into that, I got a text from someone that's been to your place, Jake. That would be Rob. And we're going to do a spin the wheel, and Rob is going to give away a compact vaporizer.
Oh, wow.
And
that's
then,
big time.
Yeah. And then also he said code STREAM for free shipping tonight only for those that don't win. So I'll put that down in a banner, but code STREAM
at checkout, right?
At checkout will get you free shipping tonight. But at some point here tonight also, we're going to spin the wheel. And Rob, always being a fantastic supporter of the Stream Team. That's awesome. So, Rob, appreciate it. And I know the entire beekeeping community appreciates you. So,
hey, mark that comment by Glade, Brian from Utah Bee Man. It's a good one.
There we go.
Yeah, Glade is the Utah Bee Man. He has a great system. He standardizes his boxes now. Glade uses all medium boxes, which is actually it works really well. He has certain colors for brood boxes, certain colors for his honey supers. Even if you're using deeps and mediums, you still can standardize it where you kind of have, when you get big enough that you have to be efficient, you can kind of settle into what works best for you. All 10 frame or all 8 frame, you know what I mean? Kind of that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you mentioned you're trying some different hive types, and that's okay with the flow hives and different things. But if you can figure out what works best for you and then standardize your equipment and have it all so you know what's what. You can go pick up boxes and put them where they need to be pretty quickly and take care of that. So that's a great point by Glade there.
Yeah.
And the commercial guys, that's kind of what they do. They have a system that works for them, and they have the boxes that work for them, and then they just build off of that. But
yeah.
anyway, so we're
You
going to give away.
guys talked about it a little bit the last time. I think you were talking about that, Brian, the last time.
Yep.
Yeah, our colorful bee yard, it's all 8-frame boxes, and then that are all painted, and then our flow hives are all 10-frame, and then I guess I'm gonna have to make a new bee yard for Greg's boxes, so that way it's all standard over where that's at. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You give something away. Are we going to do a spin now, Brian? Or are we going to do it after a while? What do you want to do? It doesn't matter when. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Doesn't matter when. That was one thing though that I found I really needed to improve was the equipment that was set up in my apiary. And meaning I had 7-frame boxes, I had 8-frame boxes, I had 10-frame boxes, I had horizontal hives, I had, all kind of different setups. And I would look out and literally just with the teens, as far as colonies, I'd have to take a notepad and walk out and say, okay, well, if I'm adding a box to everything, I need, 5 of this, 4 of this, and it created a headache. What I did, it's probably been a 2 to 3 year process. And at my scale, I went slow. I could have all done it at once, but I've tried with my beekeeping to I'm at the point where I don't want to take any money from the household. It's whatever money I get from the bees, it just gets recycled back into it. So I've gone to all 10-frame equipment. And then last year, I even switched over to single brood. So I've only got 1 deep on each colony that's out there. Everything is very easy. I've standardized feeders. I use all bucket feeders. So I know that if it gets time and, hey, when spring hits and I'm going to put feed on, I literally just go in and I grab my buckets. Prior to that, like when I would feed, I had 3 or so different types of feeders even. And it just creates a headache. It causes you to spend more time when time is something that we never get back, So, but efficiency is just huge. And I found like at your scale there around 20, as far as if you're going to look at the honey extraction, when I extracted and I had around 20 colonies, it took me an entire weekend. I was like 12 hours on a Saturday and I was like 8 hours on a Sunday. And I was literally exhausted. And you'll find out very quickly where you have bottlenecks. You'll start going through the process and you're like, well, I need to improve this, and then once you fix that and it more, everything flows downstream some, you notice, well, hey, here's a bottleneck here as well. And what I found that helped me even before the extractor was an uncapping tank was huge. The uncapping tank that I have, I think it holds 14 or so frames. So it's not massive, it's a decent size. That way, you really don't need an extra building or anything like that. But the uncapping tank was like that stage 1 where, okay, I can set my frames up, uncap them, load the extractor, and then while the extractor is spinning, you're prepping your next round. Now, extractor, at least at my scale, I should have gone with a larger extractor. I bought a 9-frame electric extractor from Hilco. And I'll have to say, I could have that extractor sitting here. Bruce has seen them too. I could have that thing sitting right here in this computer room running it, and I could still talk with you all live. It's super quiet. And that's assuming also that you load it and everything's kind of balanced, because we know those things like to shake and shimmy. But, when you're getting at that scale, when you're 20 plus colonies, I mean, I should have gone with an extractor at least twice the size of what I have. Serious.
Yeah.
Bruce, when you scaled, so when you very first started and you kind of cracked that 20 mark, what just, with you having the years of experience that you have at your scale, what would be like some initial things that you could say, hey, Jake, look for this, look for that, and do this, do that?
Well, I built up to 40, 50, 60 colonies, and I didn't buy a 20 frame extractor until way later than I probably should have. We were using a little 3-frame hand crank extractor for years. And what we did, even after we had those, 40, 50 colonies or whatever it was, I can't remember now, but it's a real simple way to do it. And I love the idea, Brian, of the uncapping tank. I didn't have one of those for a long time, but I got those. Brian, I don't know if you can find it online. There's a product called a comb capper. It's a yellow uncapping device you usually put on a 5-gallon bucket. And what we did, and I got 2 of them, and we had 2 buckets going, like my wife and I, or my wife or daughter, whoever we would be, using just a serrated knife and cutting the cappings. And it's a 5-gallon bucket. It sits on top, and you can it has a little slot for the frame to sit in vertically. You cut the comb off, it falls into the bucket. We put a paint strainer in there so it would catch the wax cappings. And then we just stick the frames in the extractor as fast as you can uncap them. And we did that for years. We've got 2 of them. It goes pretty fast. We even did that for a couple of years, I think, after we had Brian, can you scroll in and make that bigger? Can you maybe click on one of us so we can see what the principle is there? But can you make it bigger? Click on it. Are you able to? Oh, there's one right there. Yeah, the one. Yeah. So see, it sits on the top of the bucket. It's got like a ring. If you look over to the left a little bit, there's a ring right there. It sits around the bucket. And then you prop the frame in there, and you just slice off the wax. It falls into the bucket. That works well. I think even up to the number of hives you have, it would probably work. I think an uncapping tank is probably better because you do have, like Brian said, you got a place you can put your frames while your extractor's running. It really depends on the crew you have. If you got 2 or 3 people working, or even 4, if it's a family project, you can crank it out pretty fast with these comb cappers. But if you have an uncapping tank, and even if you're still using a serrated knife or the hot knife, most of the time those uncapping tanks will have a little nail that sticks up to the rest of the frames on and slice it. Cappings fall into the capping area, put the frames in the frame holding area. And so that would probably be a really good idea to go ahead and get one of those. And then as far as extractors go, there's several different brands that are really good quality. You got Maxent, Dadant, Lyson, and Hilco. I had a Maxent 20 frame extractor I used for years at that small sideliner size, probably that 40, 50, 60 colony number. Worked well for me. We just did it in my 1-car garage here at my house in town. And that was always an adventure because we ran out of space, but we could do that many colonies fairly well there. And but that 20 frame Maxent was good. We actually just this past year, my buddy and I, we actually now do we have 2 lines going, if you've seen in my honey harvesting videos, and we got a much fancier setup now, but we bought a 32 frame Hilco, and it's great, but Hilco has all different sizes. And so I would definitely recommend figuring out something. Uncapping can be a bottleneck for sure. And I would probably try to go ahead and get an uncapping tank would be a great idea with that, where you can hang your frames a little bit. And then I would try to upgrade at least to an 18 or even a 24 frame extractor, because if you grow up to even that could probably handle, it could handle your honey crop. If you build up to 40 or 50 colonies fairly easily, you could probably do it with I would probably it's not that much more to get a 24 framer. That's probably what I would go with. And then you'll find that honey harvesting becomes much faster, more efficient. The last bottleneck that we run into is once the honey comes out of the extractor, then you have to figure out how to get it strained and put it into buckets or bottles. And we put all of ours in buckets and store it that way, and then we bottle it up as needed, because it's just, if you put it all in bottles, my experience was you bottle everything up. First of all, you've got tons of bottles or jars sitting around everywhere, and it's just kind of, they can get in the way. And second of all, they can crystallize on you, and then that becomes a problem.
Mhm.
And so we put all
Are you
ours in
talking? Are you talking 5-gallon buckets or like
gallon-
the
5 gallon
metal?
buckets.
Okay.
5 gallon buckets. We don't use drums, not yet. I'm about to the point where I want to. We had 9,300 pounds of honey this year, but with Bruce's bees, but my partner that we harvest honey with, he still is on the buckets, and buckets are more convenient. I can pick them up and carry them around, but the drums, you got to have a tractor with the quiet, all the attachments, or you got to have, it's just more, you have to be more ready to move bigger stuff. You have to be on a larger scale. And with even at 50 to 100 colonies, I don't personally think you need drums unless you just want to do that or you're equipped for that. So, but yeah, we put in
I
5 gallon bucket.
I was wondering about the metal. I can't remember where in the process, if that's the same, if that's the area. Have you guys seen that there? Brian, did we look at any of those? I know I did with Rob at the metal. There was either like Thorn had maybe an 8-gallon and a 20-gallon.
Oh, that's the bottling tank. I think what you're talking about. Is that right?
Okay.
Yeah, I have a 16 bottling tank from Maxent. I think Hilco has a very similar one. I think Rob Thorn also has one of those. They're just different styles, and Brian, you've got one of those as well. But when you get it out of the extractor to store your honey, like if you end up with, just say you end up with 10 5-gallon buckets of honey, say that's 600 pounds of honey, so when it comes out of the extractor, one of the issues is you want to be able to strain it a little bit. Most people don't want big chunks of wax and bee parts, honestly, in their honey, that come out of that extractor. So I use personally, what I use coming out of the extractors is we run it through a hop spider. If you see that right there, it's like they use those to make beer. And that's what we did this past year. But before that, when I was smaller scale, we would just put a 5-gallon paint bucket or 5-gallon paint strainer in the 5-gallon bucket. And then the honey goes in there and you pull it out, raise the filter out, and the honey is ready to go. You don't have to worry about it's filtered. It's just got enough. Those paint strainers like you get at Lowe's and Home Depot are not fine enough, but the microns that it gets all the good stuff out. And so you'll have a little tiny layer of wax on top of the honey as it settles. But it's just perfect. But it becomes a pretty good workout on your biceps when you have like 100 buckets to do. If you got 10, 15 buckets, it's not that big a deal. We usually buy several packs of them, and you can just line your buckets with them, put the honey in there, and then you can just kind of lift them up and pull but it becomes a pain, but that's kind of an inexpensive way to do it at first. It works really well. Just tap the lid on, you're ready to go for storage. And then we just dump it in the bottling tank. And the bottling tanks, I would recommend the double jacketed ones that you can warm up to whatever temperature you want. And so you can warm it up a little bit to be able to bottle easier, and also to prevent crystallization or to get rid of crystallization. That's kind of my process. And I've done it with literally probably close to, I don't know how many buckets. Like this year we had 155 buckets, and we've got like 50 left. And so we've gone through a lot of buckets that way. And it's a little bit more tedious than what the commercial guys do with the drums, but it's really works convenient for me because we can carry those buckets around. Yeah. That's our process anyway.
The hop spider, Jake, I have 3 of them. And that way, like at my scale, even with that 9-framer, and it's just going nonstop, that will become a bottleneck, of course, just filter wax.
So if you can have 2 or 3 buckets going at the same time, like while, you can have the extractor just runs continuously pretty much. When you get going really quickly, if you get rid of the bottlenecks of getting the frames into the extractor, if you got a crew of 2 or 3 people, even with one person, Brian, it sounds like, but you got 2 or 3 people, you can keep that extractor running with very short times of being down. Just unload and load it back up and ready to go. And so if you can have several buckets kind of in process at the same time, one of them fills up, you slide another one under your stone, put it at the gate, and it's just always dripping honey in there. You can get through a lot of honey in a hurry that way. Works in it, whether you're using paint filters or hop spiders, and you have to kind of work out your own system. But that's kind of something over the years, we just kind of figured that stuff out, and just kind of, we've advanced and grown, and now we have an even more efficient system. But it's taken us, even this past year when we decided to go, we got the new uncapper. It's like an automated uncapper, and then we decided to get away from the paint strainers. My buddy has a big 50-gallon or 55-gallon barrel or drum that I don't even know what it was originally, but he converted into a bottling tank actually. But he put a spigot on it down there, and it's sitting up off the ground. And we have 2 hop spiders hanging in there. We just take our buckets and dump them in there, that just goes right straight into the bucket. We use a little metal strainer to get the big stuff out, but we dump in those hop spiders, and it just goes out and drains right out into our buckets. And the reason we have two of them is because they'll start to get clogged up, so you have to pull it out and wash it. And so we just, when one of them's being washed, we just put the other one in there and use it. So we've got a pretty efficient system, but there's always going to be some kind of bottleneck. Unless you have a fully automated system, there's going to be some kind of little bottleneck somewhere, but there are ways to streamline it for sure.
Yeah. Now, let me ask, Jake, how do you guys bottle your honey?
We do these little 7-ounce jars, and and then these guys. So basically, we go from the we'll have somebody working the hot knife is basically what we start with, and that's usually the slowest part is working with that. So if we had an uncapping deal, that would really help. And then we have an extractor. I think it's like 6 frame because it's bigger. It's a Miller manufacturing one, and it's because we were in horizontal hives initially, I needed something that would hold bigger frames, so it holds 3 horizontal hive frames. But we do mostly Langstroth frames now, so I really need to get something different that would hold a lot more frames. But that's not even it's really not a big slowdown, like compared to the hot knife part. That actually goes decently, and then then it's going into the buckets. And right now we use like one of those smaller strainers at the top, and then we use the paint strainer down inside, and pull it up through. And usually we run it through 2 different buckets, really, to make sure we filter it as well as possible. But it takes a little while.
That's what I did, Jake. I used to run it through 2 of them like that. And then I found that we just kind of quit doing that because there wasn't a lot of wax that got in the second filter. And then also, it leaves a little bit more of the good stuff in the honey. I don't know if it does or not really, but after time, you'll notice when you open those buckets up, it all kind of settles on the top anyway. And so the honey is perfectly clear. And so we kind of eliminated that second filtering system, and it's been fine. It just, because of the time it takes, to try and run it through 2 buckets. It's pretty quick the second time, but it's just a pain. It's kind of a pain. With the uncapping though, man, that is what we use. I don't know if you've tried this. Is they have serrated knives. You can use like a bread knife, but they've actually have specific serrated knives you can get at the honey companies for cutting off the cappings off of the honey frames, and you just kind of saw it like a bread and just write down them. And to me, that goes. The hot knife works well, but to us, we use a hot knife from the Bee Club for a few times, but just found those serrated knives seem to go as fast, if not faster sometimes. And you don't have to really warm them up. You can just run right down there. So that might be something you might want to invest in and just try, because that can be the bottleneck. Definitely uncapping can be the bottleneck, in your situation, especially if you have a crew of 2 or 3 people. It can just really slow you down if you're not careful. Brian, how do you uncap?
So I've got one of, I don't even know the name of the tool. It's that metal,
serrated knife, or is it a?
No, it's not a knife. Let me see.
Is that a little tool with the little forks in it, like the little fork, and then it kind of peels it off?
Yep. So it is. I'll share it.
We tried those too. Yeah, we tried those too. They work pretty good.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh yeah.
I'll say this: don't get it near your fingers, because then you're going to cut yourself. Ask me how I know, but the one that I have, I've gotten efficient enough with that literally it's just 2 stripes or 2 swipes down my frame, and it uncaps the entire frame. So I'll go across the top and then 2 down it, and it's fast. I mean, literally, once you kind of get efficient using it, because it takes a little bit. You have to go at a certain angle, but literally, I mean, you're uncapping frames in 10 or so seconds each side. So now with that tool, though, I have found that every couple frames, keep a hive tool handy, because wax will get built up on the forks, and then it does not work at all. And then you're just tearing up, comb. But that tool there works really well for me. So, but yeah, you're where you're at now, Jake. It sounds very, very similar to where I was. I'd say probably 3 years ago. I think one of the first things that I did, I think it was like a 3-frame extractor. And once I got up to close to like 10 colonies, I went through one season like that. And I was just like, you're miserable. You're spending more time when really you can just get one piece of equipment and you almost triple your operation as far as what you can pump through. So the extractor, that's huge. When you do bump up your extractor size, you'll notice very quickly, well, then there's that bottleneck in that, well, you're spending time loading it. So that's where that uncapping tank comes into play. And when all of that kind of comes into play, then that's when, after I got my uncapper, that's when I added in those hop spiders, just so that really I was loading the extractor, spinning it out, and it was just a constant flow of honey into the buckets. Now, the other item that I literally have raved about it, and I do have a video on it as well, after all is said and done, and why I asked how you guys bottle your honey, is I used to bottle my honey using a ladle. I did not have a bucket that had the honey gate on it.
Yeah.
So I was literally sitting in my kitchen, and when I would go to do markets, I would literally spend 2, 3, 4 hours with a ladle, and I was ladling honey. It's miserable. So I went, and you may have seen it at the expo. I bought a unit. It was called the Speed Fill. It was sold by Hilco, and you can fill, DC said it, Brian is spoiled now. I can fill a 1-pound jar of honey in about 9 seconds. So from the start extraction point clear through to now filling my jars, it's just, at least at my scale, it's fast. Now, that filling unit, you can use that at any level, just, even at Bruce's level, with the amount of honey that he has. I think that's probably the only area where he's at now with his operation, how it's set up with the lines that he does, where I think he could just make his operation more efficient, is to get a bottling unit. Because then, after all is said and done, and you do have to bottle however many jars it is, you're literally, I can rip through a whole bucket in, 20 minutes or so. Easy.
Yeah, I use I am probably almost as fast, maybe not quite, but I have a dripless valve from Maxon, and I think Coco has one too. It's just like honey on tap. You just down, set it over, down, set it over, down, set it over. But it's not 100% dripless. There's usually one drip that'll happen. And so we had a little puddle of drip on the floor. But it's not a big deal. We've bottled thousands of bottles that way. But I do agree. One thing about the automatic bottling thing that Brian talks about is that it's a perfect every time. Yeah. Like you set it at a weight you want it to be at. And if you want it to be a pound, it's going to be a pound every single time. So it is perfect. Yeah. Whereas obviously there's some subjectivity to it if you're eyeballing it.
Yeah.
But I personally, I just love to just bottle my honey up almost on demand. When people order it, I just like to go down. I've got my bottling tank primed pretty much all the time with honey in it, and I just fill some bottles up. And Jake, with all the followers you have, you need to ramp up a little bit. I'm sure you got a lot of demand for your honey.
The honey, the bottling actually that's the best part, because we got 2 boys. Here's one of them. Here's Eli, and they work. I think we're working on the bottles and different things like that, but they sealing them up and everything. But they do the honey gate deal, and it fills up. It fills up pretty quick. So No
That's
complaints there so far on that part of it.
When you got a built-in work crew, it helps, doesn't it?
It does.
And the older they get, the more they're going to be able to do as well. You know, Greg, his situation, I wish he was on here, but Greg's situation, you know, he's got 7 kids, and many of them are at that age to where they can really help and get a lot of the work done. I think Jake's probably doing about almost as much work as Greg as far as actually on the bee farm.
Yeah.
Jake is like just absolutely, what is Jake, about 18 now? And
He is,
17, 18, and he is just to take, you know, just really able to help a lot. And then the other kids and Susie all chip in. So if you got family that can help you, that is a big, huge deal. As opposed to trying to do it by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the heated bottling tank that I purchased, I went a little larger than at my scale right now what I needed, but I got a 19 gallon. I just figured they had a smaller one. I think it was like a 7 gallon or something like that. And I thought it really didn't, to me, it didn't make sense. I thought I could spend another $200 or whatever it was and get one that held, 12 more gallons. And now what I did, Bruce, thank you. What I did with my heated bottling tank is I actually removed the dripless valve on it, and I plumbed a ball valve on it, and then I can actually run a hose directly to my bottling machine, to the speed fill. So if I am going to bottle like a significant number, I could literally just plumb that speed fill system right in, and I've got 19 gallons potentially of honey that can just, I'd be curious to see how fast I could rip through that thing in, but I would bet it would not take that long.
Yeah. Anyway, good stuff, man. I hope that's helped you a little bit, Jake. Maybe give you some things to think about. But I would go ahead, if you're debating about the 18 frame or the 20 frame or the 24 frame, if you're looking at Hilco, I don't know what your preference is there. I'm really impressed and happy with my Hilco equipment. I was happy with my Maxon as well, but just needed something bigger. But if you're kind of at a toss up between an 18 and a 24, I'd maybe just go with the 24, because if you do scale up, that's something you'll have for years ahead. And, it's not that much of a difference in price, I don't think. And Brian Lee, who's in here, I think he actually did that. Brian has about, I think, 20 to 30 colonies. I'm not sure how many Brian has, but he actually went ahead and he's been trying to do it with the smaller extractor. He bought the bigger extractor this year. I think it's going to really help out. So that's just something else to think about. Yeah. But anyway, awesome.
At my scale where I'm at right now, I think that is probably the one piece of equipment that I wished I would have gone larger than what I did. Now, that 9 framer, it runs exceptionally smooth, and it is, it's a great unit. But had I doubled up the size on that, I could go over and literally work my entire apiary, go through and extract. It would be half the time. So,
can I ask what you guys think? So on the Hilco, I've heard nothing but good things about Hilco. Now, there was the Thorn stuff. Did you guys get a chance to look at any of the Thorn equipment at the Bee Expo? What did you guys think of that?
Jed?
It's incredible equipment. It is a little more pricey, but you can't go wrong with anything Thorn. I actually have their wax melter, and it's phenomenal, and it's just a little more pricey. But I think as far as the quality goes, you can't beat it. Would you agree, Brian, with that?
Oh, yeah. Jed, his equipment, it's some of his pieces, they're out of my scale because he does some very large pieces. Like I saw his honey clarifier and just different things like that I looked at, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I just wanted to stare at it. But it's fantastic equipment, and you can't go wrong with it. So, with that, you're getting, every single little piece of that unit is made in America, and exactly who made it. Jed.
He actually, he's got his own shop, and he does the actual work on the I'm not sure if he's hired anybody or not, but I know he actually fabricates everything from scratch. He is very skilled at what he does. So absolutely, his stuff is top notch. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-oh, look at there. Zach.
Yeah. Zach Heinzelman. If you don't know who Zach is, Jake, he is a queen producer in Hawaii at Heinzelman Apiaries, and I actually have bought some queens from him this past year. They've done well. And he's a commercial guy. Obviously, he does ships queens all over the country. So he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
How fast do his queens get here from Hawaii?
It just takes a couple days.
Oh, wow.
And believe it or not, actually, I had some shipped from Hawaii, and the cost on them was less than some I had shipped from North Carolina, and they came in great shape. So I don't know why there was such a big difference in cost, but they got here. The way he packs them is that he puts them in a box, obviously with a lot of attendant bees, and then he has they look like syringes. I'm not sure how. It's the only guy I've ever seen do this, but one of them has like candy in it. The other one has water in it, I think, to keep the food, and the worker bees just feed the queens, and they come and they're perfectly happy. And even I think one time they got delayed a day or two, and they were just perfectly fine. They were happy and did great. So.
Was there something special about his queens? Why'd you get his queens?
Honestly, he doesn't have a lot of availability in the early winter and spring because he's shipping to a lot of commercial guys. But that's the main reason I got some from him is he saw me doing a video and my bees were real mean, and so he was like, "I want to send you some queens," and I'm like, "Well, do you have any available?" And so I kind of got on his list. He sent me a minimum order of those, and his minimum order was like 25 at a time, so or something like that. But he sent me them, and I got them in there split middle of February, and they did really well. Got honey off of some of them. I actually split them again. I split them, put his queens in them. They grew into 2 boxes, split them again. Still got honey off of some of them. A lot of them got 1 to 2 boxes of honey off of them in June. So they blew up. They're Italian Cordovan queens. And so their genetics are designed for a lot of brood production. So they're really good for pollination. They're really good for honey production. I think they'll do a good honey crop, and they're really good to make bulk bees with. They have a lot, and they're really calm and gentle. That's what I like about them. They're so gentle. They're really good bees. The downside is in the wintertime, they don't back off like some. They don't store as much. They put a lot more work into brood production and making baby bees than actually honey production. Now during the honey flow, they put it in, but they just don't slow down and so they're always making bees, and so they can starve out pretty quick. The other issue is you do have to treat them. They are not, from what I found, they do have they get mites in them, and so. But I don't have a problem treating my bees. I go ahead and treat, so it wasn't a big deal. And I'm just kind of learning how to use them. And I like his bees. I never tried bees from Hawaii before, queens, but I've been very impressed with his queens, and I definitely Zach. He's done a good job with it. What he's doing, he knows what he's doing over there. And I bought some more queens from him in the summer. I just late summer splits. I replaced some weak queens, and then I also did some splits. And those things right now are just boiling. They're just the ones I got in the late summer queens. They kind of took a little while to get going because it was just kind of dry and hot, like it always is in the summertime. And some of them didn't do that well because I think I split them too weak or something. But man, I fed them and tried to take care of them. And the ones, almost all of them did well. Most of them did. And the ones that I have left now are just already starting to just blow up and get ready for spring. So I have another order coming of 25, I think, unless he sends me some more. I may try to talk him into that. And we're going to do some splits here middle of February again. Here in Alabama, now this year's been a little different. It's been a little pretty chilly. We still probably could split on some of the warm days that we have, like the 50s and 60s. But, we can split. You can almost split year-round here if you have access to queens. That's the problem, is access to good queens. And you can't do queen cells in the wintertime because there's not many drones and they're not flying as much. But if you have access to good queens, and if you can feed them, you can split a lot of the year here. So yeah, I thought it was 300. Yeah, Zach, I'm not that rich, man. Come on. Yeah, but he's a good guy. I mean, he raises a good bee and a good queen, and that's the issue with his queen. That's how they are now. You got your Carniolans and your Cordovans, your Carniolans and your Caucasian bees and your Russian bees and bees like that. and they tend to be very frugal and extremely productive during the honey season.
Mhm.
And the wintertime, they back off. They're real winter hardy. They put a lot of stores away for the winter, and then they brood way back into little small little clusters, sometimes like a little volleyball or smaller size. So it almost scares you how small they get, but they just survive, and they're really good for cold climates. And those are more not as designed as much probably for like your pollination and stuff, because in my opinion, because they're not going to be huge coming out of January. They're going to stay huge all year. They do brood way back, and sometimes they go broodless, especially up north. It just depends on what you want, and I have a combination of a lot of things here. So,
Yeah.
Bruce, you have what this gentleman by the name of Randy Oliver, he coined queens like yours as, what did he say, Frankenqueens.
Which one? Oh, just all different kinds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do definitely have.
Yeah, but that's all good. Hey, how about we do this right here?
You gonna spin it?
Might as well, huh?
Well, you want to mention again, and for folks that came in late, maybe give them a couple of minutes, because there were some people that have been coming in late. Your numbers have gone up throughout the.
Yeah.
So everybody, well, Brian, tell them what's going on.
Yep. So Rob texted me very early on in tonight's live and said, "Hey, do you want to give away one of the compact vaporizers?" And I'm like, "Well, that's up to you." So enter in hashtag Lorobbies, exactly what you see there on the screen, and now you only have to do it once. If you do it multiple times, it doesn't give you multiple entries. It's just one time, but you'll get a compact unit. Now, you'll have to communicate with Rob, just simply because with these units, there are different types of batteries. So, that way you can communicate with Rob, get the one that best suits you, whichever type of batteries you do have. Also, for those that do not win, if you are interested in one of those units and you go to the website, if you use code STREAM, you'll get free shipping. So he basically is throwing out a deal for everybody there. So, and like I said already, Rob is a fantastic supporter of, pretty much the entire community. So,
while we're talking about this, I have all three of his instant vape products. I have the original. Now, I got the original one before they actually have battery protection on them. So the one I have, it'll drain your battery down, but the new ones won't do that. They're designed so they will not drain your battery down. So I've got his original unit that they sold, the original instant vape. Then I've got the compact, and I also have the light. And I did a video on those recently. And if you want to see them side by side, you can go to Bruce's Bees and watch that video I did on them in the last couple of weeks. But they are absolute powerhouses. They're really nice. They are a little pricey, but man, they're worth it. And they do a tremendous job. I will say too that you're going to probably have, depending on how many hives you have or how many colonies you're trying to treat, you do need to make sure and invest in some batteries, some good quality batteries as well. The little standard ones that come with your DeWalt drill are not going to last. You got to have some that are like at least probably I would say 5 or above amp hours to be able to get the number of colonies you want in. But man, they are powerhouses. They're awesome. And I'm a believer in Rob's products. Rob has been good to me way back when he had his original corded unit. I had a Jono's Easy Vape unit that just I wore out basically. And then I got one of Rob's. And he actually did a giveaway when I hit 10,000 subscribers on my channel. And so Rob's been good to me over the years. And so I would highly recommend you take a look at them and consider them if you don't have one already. If that's something you want to do, if you want to be quick and efficient, you can't beat the instant vaporizers.
Yeah.
How's that for a plug for Rob?
I know. No, the same thing. And like, I have one of his corded units as well. And where all of my colonies are located at, I had I think 100-foot extension cord that I would just pull out the door and walk out into the yard. The amount of time that instant vape saves me, it is amazing. The time that I don't have to spend monkeying with a cord, that unit, and I've got the one, it's got the battery protection on it. and it's the original one. It's a fantastic unit. So I'll tell you, I can go over there and like at my scale. And Jake, I think you've used one of the instant vapes, haven't you?
Yeah, Rob came here in May, and yeah, we have the compact.
Yeah, they all are. I mean, they're fantastic vaporizers. So let me share this again, and let's get that done. I will draw. So I'll spin this, and I'll select 2 individuals. The first person, that way, of course, they'll win the unit. If they do not, for some reason, contact Rob, do not want it, whatever it is, then we'll go to the second person. So let's go ahead and let's see, 149 on that. Wow. 150, I think it just popped to. All right, come on. Castle Hives. Come on. David Hunter. Well, David, congrats. Let me see here. Is Rob, are you here? So let's see here. David Hunter. All right. David, let's do this. So now only David Hunter. Don't everybody flood my email. But let's see here. David Hunter. Email me at, I'm going to put my email up here, and I will connect you with Rob. Let me make sure I got that right. There we go. Okay. Now, let me draw a second one just as a backup, and we'll see. All right, come on. I saw Castle Hive.
Oh, man, you were second place.
You put yourself in there, Brian?
Well, no, I typed
Gary Stewart. Wow, Gary. Hey, man. Congrats, dude.
All right. Well, Gary, if David, and I know how to get a hold of Gary, if David does not, for some reason, contact me, doesn't want the unit, then Gary, I'll reach out to you. I'll let you know. So that is awesome. Rob, and thank you so much. So yeah. I can't say thank you enough. So
great deal.
Yeah.
I like that. Someone said we're all super happy for you, David.
There are so many bee puns. It's just crazy.
I would almost say
that
Rob has his entire operation dialed in. Bruce, you just muted yourself.
I had to sneeze, but yeah, okay. There's another pun right there.
See?
I haven't heard that one before.
It's all dialed in. I got a whole stack of them over here I'm making. So good stuff. Let me, I tell you, let me do one other here. I guess I'm just going to get this done too. Hot honey.
Wow. There you go. Wow.
This is the old school way.
How'd you get those names in there?
Manually entered them in.
Wow.
Let's see here. So
Jim Hughes. I think Jim might live in Georgia if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Jim, I'm thinking.
So
I'm not
Jim
sure about that.
Hughes, I will get in touch with, and then a jar of my hot honey. So now I'll spin a second one and same deal. So if I can't get a hold of Jim, then we'll just go to the second one. So
for those of you who didn't see Brian's, okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good deal.
For those who didn't see Brian's video on making hot honey, it was really well done. And Brian, I know you appreciate that, giving away your trade secrets. That's awesome that you're willing to do that. So,
well, I didn't necessarily like give my exact ratio. When I was researching it, look at this. Look, I'm being pressured. Give away a mating pod. Well, okay. All right. When I was researching the hot honey, I found a recipe that was it gave a range, and it said for DC says, do you make flavored hot honey? I don't. The recipe that I found was for every 4 cups of honey to use between 2 and 4 tablespoons of dried pepper seeds. So you're leaving it out there in that, well, if you want it super hot, yeah, you're going to add more. The specific ratio that I worked out, it was several hours to get that, down pat. But it tastes fantastic.
That's great.
It really is fantastic. So when I had people ask me, they're like, hey, can you share your exact recipe? And it's like, well, I kind of didn't want to throw it out there for everybody because I literally spent an entire evening the entire evening just tinkering and then measuring stuff out to the grams. And so, but leaving it like that, I think it leaves it open for everybody because not everybody's taste is the same.
Yep.
And then and I mean, you could make your own. So if you want to use a different type of pepper, you want to do anything like that, you could do that.
So Jake, tell us what your favorite kind of splits are. How do you like to do splits?
Okay. I was about to say, what are you talking about? What kind of splits are there? Okay, I had to think about. I think I saw. I'm still fairly new to it all, so I watched Cayman's talk at the conference, and he talked about all the walkaway splits and all the different things. Basically, I'll move over, basically kind of a nuke to a few extra frames. So I'll let's see. I'm trying to remember. It's been a year since I've done one. I'll try to keep the bulk of the hive there, and I'll move over 5 to 6 frames, 2 good brood frames and 2, 3, 4 good honey frames, and I'll have them grow their own queen. And then sometimes I order queens throughout the year. I usually just order 2 to 3 at a time if I have like a hive that failed at producing a queen. Sometimes I have hives that I keep bringing over new brood frames to try to get them to grow queen, and so I'll basically just challenge myself to try to resist buying queens when possible. But then I know if I wait too long on it, then I'm going to miss any chance of them producing enough that year. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I did get a few queens from somewhat of a neighbor that was in a beekeeping group. I ended up picking up some when they had ordered some more queens, and they were giving away some of their previous year queens. And so then I'll do splits because I've got new queens. And then a few times I had to order a few queens for whatever reason, if I had a hot hive or if I knew I had a few queenless hives that were working on producing a queen, something like that. So basically I'll split out some frames, and then if I have a queens, I'll put them in. If I don't, then I'll have them grow queen.
Jake, let me ask this. Have you ever thought about adding in what's called a resource hive into your operation, or even 2 of them? And what
were they're growing queens ahead of time?
So what a resource hive is, it's basically a 10 frame footprint, but in the box there's a divider board, so each side is 4 frames. And usually what I do, and I do this very early on when I do my splits, if I find frames that have loads of cells or whatever, I just make a smaller split and just set that resource colony up, and then I just let that go. And the setup that I have, you have 2 4-frame boxes, but then what I found out you can do with them also is you can throw a queen excluder on them and let them work supers above. But the benefit of those resource hives is you can really at any time throughout the season, you can pull out brood frames, supplement into other colonies. So if you do have production colonies, you're pulling out brood frames. But then if you get into a situation where you do find a colony that's queenless, we have a queen right there. So you could pull it out of there, introduce it into the other, and let that resource colony raise another. So they're very handy. I have 2 of those setups, and they've saved me several times. Several times.
I have the queen, a queen making hive with the equipment for making queens, but then also it has like 2 dividers. So yeah, I could absolutely make that like a resource hive. This last year was really the first year that I was able to, that I had as many as I did come out of the winter, and I was able to make so many splits. So it was kind of a first year for me getting to do a lot of splits. So I wasn't even worried about, I just had so many splits going that I didn't even have time to think beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had, I heard one time someone talked about, it's a good idea. And all the nukes I'm going to talk about here are kind of like resource hives where, you know, you have a certain number of colonies that you want production colonies and you try to build to that number. But then if you can increase your number and maybe have that many nukes or maybe not that many nukes on the side, just in case you lose one, you'll have something to replace them with and get through winter. And then at the end of the winter, like say you make nukes and you have good, big, strong nukes that make it through winter. I'm not sure how nukes do up there where it's so cold. Down here, you can overwinter nukes and they do okay. But you could sell the nukes in the spring, or you could use them to replace or to grow your operation. So that the principle of resource hives is good, and it sounds like you're kind of doing that a little bit by catching swarms by doing splits. I always increase, like when I say I have 140 colonies. Last year, I think around harvest time, I had 144 colonies, but only 100 of those were production colonies. And so then I lost some, but I still am up just around 100, or give or take a few, because I have those extra colonies. 100 colonies is about what I need, I think, for the honey production that I need or that I had last year. I'd like to be a few more, but just in case. But that's, I think, probably the most I've had that were strong enough to produce honey in one year before. And so it's just a good idea, I think, to have the whole principle of resource hives, because you don't worry about, like, you don't really care if that colony grows into a production hive. It's just resources for you to be able to utilize. Like if you need brood for a colony or bees or a queen, like Brian said, you can just pull from that. It's like spare parts. So I think Keith Spillman said spare parts in the comments. That's really what it is it's spare parts for your operation. Works out good.
No, you're right. That's probably going to be the plan this year, because if I have as many as I hope to have coming out of winter,
now
I don't want to keep all the splits. So I definitely want to create some nukes to either sell or just have them for resource. So you're right about that.
How many you're sitting at? Where are you at now? 20, 25?
20. About 20.
So if you, let's just say, to come out with 100%, you know, I don't want to say that, but let's say you come out with
10 to 15.
Well, I would say, I was going to say like 15. Would you want to, and if you go conservative with splits, if you just double up, would you go to 30?
I don't know. I'd probably go to 25. And then I know I have a couple friends that are getting into bees, and I told a couple that I would get them some nukes this year so they could move from 1 hive to 2 hives. So I've got a few people I want to help out, and then we'll see from there if we sell a few or just keep them as resource hives. We'll see. I've got a bunch of those. I've bought so many nukes in the past from having to like start over the first couple of years that I've got a bunch of those plastic nukes all piled up. So I'm all ready for the nukes.
That right there is funny. The next giveaway, a hive lifter. Yeah. What is it? That easy? What's that? What's that thing that Ian?
Easy loader, right?
Yeah.
Easy loader.
Yeah. It's sponsored by Bruce's Bees.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's like what, $80,000 lift or whatever, 50,000, whatever it is.
No, I think
It's
a
not that
year or
much.
so ago, I think it was what, 34,000.
Still,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not sponsoring that. I'll tell you that right now. Maybe Jake could, but anyway.
Yeah, let's do. I guess let's get this other spin here. Hashtag mating pod, and I'm gonna leave this up to my partner in crime there. And Jason, how do you want them to get a hold of? Look at this. Well, I know who that is. So, Roy, you're going to get a hold of me, buddy.
I'm not even sure what that is. Is that a queen right dial thing?
Yep. Okay. So what that is, it is this right here. It's the pocket one that it has your dates on it around, and then it has all of the developmental stages. So if you do get into grafting or whatever it is, you can basically dial this and you just match up your dates, and then it tells you developmental wise, well, where are you at? So you can look at this and say, okay, well, if I did see a capped cell on this date, or if you know that it's close to being capped, you can use this, mark that dating, and then you'll know exactly on here when you have in the green, a confirmed mated queen that you should see eggs. Now, the developmental stages, it's the developmental stages of a queen. That's set in stone. But where it kind of gets a little bit more dependent on Mother Nature and other factors are after, when she's on her mating flights and things like that. So, but very handy tool here. Jason and I, we've got a couple deals going on with those. So, yeah, Roy, get a hold of me, buddy. Or I'll bring it down in April when I see you.
Hey, so I wanted to introduce my son back here. He's been here for a little bit. So this is Eli, and he's 11, and he's helped me a lot the last few years on our bees, and he's an awesome baseball player. He's in basketball season right now, and he's an awesome cook. He makes really good desserts. But we're here to talk about bees. So he does an awesome job helping me with our beekeeping and helping me keep track of stuff. So I just want to introduce him, and if you had anything you wanted to ask him, I wanted to get him involved in here for a minute.
Eli.
Oh, Bruce, I think you're muted there.
Oh, look, he is.
I'm telling you, I do that all the time. Eli, what is your favorite part of beekeeping? What do you enjoy the most?
Talking to there.
Probably the honey.
There you go. Smart man. I like it.
What, let me ask. So Eli, what is now, set aside from the honey, if there's like one memory that stands out from last year with the bees, what's that memory? What's one good memory? I've got him thinking.
What about our orange hive that we got really tall?
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
Probably the orange hive.
Yeah. How big did that?
We got it. We got 5 or 6 supers on it. It got taller than you. It got taller. He's how tall are you now? Over 5 foot?
Yeah.
So it got a little bit taller than you with 6 boxes. Say that.
Wow.
It got a little taller than me.
Wow. Now this here is Jason. And this is a question really, I mean, geez, I wonder. Eli, how many times have you been stung?
I don't know.
Oh, take a guess.
Maybe 5 to 10.
That's all? Well, you are doing fantastic.
Do you remember when we dropped the box from the tree, the swarm box, the swarm trap? Did you get stung that time?
I think I did.
Yeah, we had a video, I think 2 years ago, and my original swarm boxes were wooden, and now I use I can't remember what the name I can't think what the name of them are, but they're a gray, the Interceptor off of Amazon I use now, and they're because I dropped my wooden box. It fell from a tree when we were trying to collect a swarm, and I thought it was sitting in place, and I was unstrapping it, and then I turned for a second, and then it slid off and dropped down. My wife was filming down there, and in the video she goes like, she immediately hits the ground and she goes, "Oh, Jake," like. And then they immediately, all of a sudden, it got in her hair. The bees went in her hair, and they stung him on the face. And so I think a day or two later, he had a big welt on his face. And so that was it's funny looking back on it, but it was awful. And it was embarrassing because it was at a friend's house that we were trying to help them catch a swarm out of their tree. And then we thought we were coming over there to be all cool and help them get the swarm out. And then I screwed it all up.
That's how it goes, though, isn't it? Seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how beekeeping. That's probably how homesteading is in general. It's just, you think you have something figured out, and then, Mother Nature throws you a curveball, or you do something that you didn't expect, and end up getting, in this case, literally stung, or as a lot of people down here in the South say, bit by the bees.
I was just a big screw up, basically, the first 3 years of beekeeping.
Yeah, weren't we all? I got into it, and I just kind of dove in. I did have a pretty good mentor from the start, but he told me to do stuff, and I didn't do it. So that was kind of my claim to fame. But yeah, I'm still doing things that are crazy sometimes. I think it's just part of it. Just kind of got to learn the hard way, but it makes for good video footage for your channel for sure.
I mean, it was fun, but it took any credibility I had away for beekeeping. But yeah, I thought as far as a dramatic video, those two, the one getting bees in
the veil
in my suit, and then dropping that hive, those were two of the most dramatic videos that I've had for sure.
Good stuff. Hey, I just got a text message from none other than Mr. Greg Burns. He said, "Tell everyone I said hey, and that I'll see them in Wisconsin." Wisconsin that he is talking about, he's going to be at, it's the Midwest Bee Expo on the 25th and 26th. He's going to have a booth set up there, and I wish that I could go up there just to see the discussion that he is going to be moderating. A discussion, and it's treat or not to treat. Is that even a question? And you're going to have Ian Stepler on there along with two other guys that are treatment-free guys. So yeah, I'd love to be up there and see that. But yeah, everybody, the 25th and 26th, if you're up there in Wisconsin, look for Nature's Image Farm, because they'll have a booth.
Right, is there a website or a link to that where they can go to that?
There is, yeah. You would think that I would have that already, but yeah, I'll get it. Midwest.
I think Greg just texted it to us, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm going to get it here.
Okay.
There we go.
Jake Bryan is so fast on that stuff, man. He'll have it up in 10 seconds. It would take me 3 minutes to get it figured out. But he'll have it up.
So who runs the Midwest conference? If Cayman runs the national one, who runs that Midwest one?
What is the guy's name? I've spoken to him on Facebook, on Messenger. He messaged me. I forget. It is in, and let me see the town. It's, and I know I'm going to mess it up. Is it Waukesha?
I think that's
Waukesha,
right.
that looks right.
Waukesha Expo Center. And it is, let me see here. Let me look up. Oh boy, where is it? I'll find out. William. let me see here. William Werning is how I believe you say it. William Werning. I'll put his name into chat.
Okay.
Here we go. Yeah, right there is his name. William Werning.
Brian, did we flag some questions?
Yeah, so let's see here. I know Jessica's on here all the time, and this is not bee related, but I'm curious also because I saw in the last video, well, I don't even know how many were in the incubators.
So right here is it says how many emu eggs are we up to. So right there is our emu egg incubator.
Oh,
and
wow.
there's 11 in there. So there's 6 on the top shelf, 6 on the top shelf, and there's 5 on the bottom shelf right now. And then we've got Bamboo is our original male emu. He's out in the emu horse yard, and he's sitting on here tonight out at 24 degrees tonight. Last night it got down to like 5 or 6 degrees. He's sitting out there in a little hut, a little chicken coop. And he's sitting on 3 eggs right now. So one of our female emus is laying an egg every 3 days. So we'll keep adding to that. We'll keep adding to that 3, so he can hatch out some emus here in at least about 50 to 55 days to hatch them out.
Oh my gosh. Wow. What like I know when I did my quail, oh gosh, I had a pretty high hatch rate. I put in 48 or so eggs into my incubator, and I got like 42 or 43 that hatched out. What's like the percentage with emu eggs? What's the typical like average?
Well, we had a horrible year last year. Like a lot of them developed in the incubator, but didn't hatch. Like they made it almost fully developed, and they just didn't hatch out. We had, I think, either 2 or 3 that hatched in there, and then out under one of the males, he hatched out 2, I think. And then so we had an issue with a couple of those little baby emus surviving. They just had like really weird freak accidents. So we end up having 2 survive out of maybe 20 to 25 eggs, and then we sold probably 10 to 15 eggs. So I thought I was going to have a really good hatch, so I ended up selling some of the eggs off. So right now we're probably going to hold on to a little bit more eggs this year just to make sure we have more hatch out. But the majority of the eggs develop. They're mostly fertile, so it's just an issue with them getting to the very end.
Yeah. Wow. Let me see here. Another question. Jake, how's your bees overwinter in the horizontals?
I'm using one horizontal hive, and it's a really big one. It's like an extra long one. Our regular ones were like 15 frame, and this extra long one I think it might be 25 frames. So it's really big. And we put in a swarm catch that we got this past year, and they were one of our fastest growing hives. I actually split them into another horizontal hive because they were just about to fill it up, and then the other horizontal hive didn't succeed. So I slowed them down a little bit because I've had issues. That's where I've had issues with horizontal hives, is that they fill their hive and then they get really aggressive. So I've learned to kind of split them out as they start to get to the end of their hive. So we have one horizontal hive, and they were doing really well up until the end of the year. So we'll see how they do coming out of winter.
Yeah, good stuff. I know I missed probably some questions here. So if you do have, and I know we'll probably be on, about another 10 minutes or so, but if you do have some last minute questions, just throw them in caps. That way they're kind of flagged for me. They stand out. Let me see here. I saw Mark had a question. Oh, let me see here. That question there. So, question: can you use one of the bottling machines without a warming tank? Basically, bottle room temp honey. You can. That speed fill, you can. I've done it. If it's super thick, of course it's going to be slower. But yeah, you can. You can. So, oh, let's see here. And this right here is Sandy. She's been a long supporter of my channel. So she goes back and forth from Wyoming, and you see right there in the name of her channel, but from Wyoming, and then she's in Arizona also. So, and she probably missed early on, but Jake, what zone are you?
We're right on the edge, northwest Missouri. I think we're in 5B, is our growing zone.
Good stuff. Sandy is awesome. So, yeah.
Freedom Apiaries has a question there.
Oh, let's see here.
I think that's the second time they put it in.
Oh, okay. Going into second year, need new equipment to expand. Oh, okay. Apame bottom board, and wax tip woodenware. Oh, okay. All wax tip woodenware. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Whoo, this is Pat. Man.
Are you asking what we recommend, or just do you already have that equipment? I don't know. A good answer.
I think he's asking what we would recommend, and I'll tell you, in my apiary, my standard setup is going to be an Apame bottom board, and then all of EnduraHive wax dipped. So that's just going to be my standard setup. That Apame bottom board, and I don't know, Jake, if you're familiar with those.
A little bit.
The Apame bottom board it's like the Swiss Army knife as far as bottom boards. You've got entrance reducers, mouse guards, pollen trap. I mean, it's a fantastic unit. So
I think I watched Cayman do a video on one this past year, or maybe when he was doing the majority of his videos were about raising a nuke into a colony.
Yeah.
And so I think he went through the Apame and the Apame bottom board, I think, specifically on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, personally, I use I have some Apames, but most of what I use is woodenware. I have so many. I think that if you can get, Bohemia says if you can afford the Nature's Image Farm kit, it's worth it. I'm not sure what all's in that, Jason. Is that the one with the Apame bottom board, or is that just a standard wooden bottom board? I would recommend, it depends on what your budget is. I think Via talks about that there. If you can get wax tipped equipment, the Apame bottom board is excellent. You can adapt those to wooden boxes. I don't have any of those. I have Apame hives, and then I have the rest of them are wooden. Most of mine are actually on pallets. So that's what I just have the boxes. I don't really have the bottom boards, but
I need to share this because it's good that Greg doesn't have Wi-Fi. I'm going to say this is right here. It's fantastic. This right here is fantastic. This right here, this EnduraHive Premium Hive kit, you've got the Apame bottom, you've got the EnduraHive wax dipped, you've got the Apame top, the feeder in it, and look at that. This whole entire kit is dialed in. And this setup right here, it's $199 for that setup.
Does it have frames in it?
I
think so, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Greg has some really good things. He's got some really good setup. He's trying to help people succeed. So you may want to check out his page. Charles, can you find that one, Brian?
Yeah.
So why didn't you want Greg to hear about that? Is that make his head too big if you applaud him?
No, because the regular price on that was $250, and it's still discount.
Oh.
There's still a holiday discount on it of $199. So I don't want him to.
So he may adjust the price.
So if you gotta go in there, hop in there and do that really fast. But
Yeah,
Charles
okay.
says this is another different opinion, and this is what I did actually. He said Just my opinion, but go as cheap as you can. The steel quality woodenware, paint it well, and when you start to make money, you can buy more expensive things. And that's one approach that you can take. I actually started off. I got the original boxes. My mentor actually built out of milled pine wood, so the boxes actually they contracted over time, so they were almost too small after. But I used some of those boxes for years, and then gradually started. I built some of my own boxes, did some of my own stuff, and the kind of the devil's advocate for that is, if you do some of the if you're just going to get one or two colonies, say for example you're getting Greg's equipment with the Enduro Hive wax dipped, those boxes are much more expensive, maybe double the price. They're already built, they're already wax dipped, and they will last you. Just the standard Enduro Hive boxes will last you probably 25 years, and so buy once, cry once type of a thing. But if you're gonna, I mean, I understand both sides of that because I was the guy that was doing it for the most affordable way possible initially, and now I'm to the point, like Charles says, where I've made enough money with my bees and with my honey. I know how to kind of keep enough alive, at least until now, to be able to make a little bit of money. So now I can afford the nicer things that will last me for many years. So it's kind of a matter of what your budget is, what you want to do. Some people enjoy the experience of stapling boxes together. Some people enjoy putting frames. Some people just enjoy that. Personally, I don't that much. I mean, it's kind of cool, but now I'm to the point to where I just want stuff. I don't want to have to invent any gadgets. I want other people to invent, like Brian, to invent the gadgets, and then I'll buy the gadgets. And I want people to put my stuff together, and then I'll buy the stuff. It's just for me, it's strictly it's a matter of being efficient. I don't have the time to be able to do that kind of stuff. But those are all valid points, and just depends on what you want to do.
I did exactly that though. Also, I mean, I started out. I bought basic wooden kits. I put them all together. I used tung oil on all of mine way back. So I did the burning treatment and then I tung oiled them. And I still have my original Hive setup that I bought. Well, it'd be almost 9 years ago now. I still have that Hive setup. It has not rotted. So the tung oil and everything I did with that kind of has held. I used to paint boxes and do all that also, but it got to the point with me that I'm like, oh man, I can drive a little over 2 hours down the road and buy boxes that are wax dipped, load up the car, and then I never have to worry about them again.
Yeah.
So, but right here.
Man, the bees make money, but man, it's a lot of work to get there. I promise you that. I am in the black right now, but that could change, I guess. But right now, they have been good to me. And one reason I do have a little bit of money from my bees is because I put it all back into the bees for the most part. I haven't really used it I haven't used it for anything else. And so anything I have, we got a couple of household expenses coming up. So I'm going to start using a little bit of that for that probably. But it always just goes right back into the bees. And if you put everything back into them, if you can keep a few colonies alive and put everything back into them, you can start to make a little bit of money on them. It's kind of cool. But so Jake, what's in store for you at the channel and with your family here in the next little while? What you got coming up?
Well, our big project was the aviary, and we got the birds in there in December. So that's been a lot of fun to finally see the fruits of our labor. That took us 5 years, from the beginning of that vision to ordering equipment from the UK and then getting it in, and then each year putting together the outer fencing, and this last year putting together the cables and netting, and last year was a big pond getting in there. So that was a big project that I haven't even mentally moved on from, as far as man, what's the next big thing going to be? Because we'll start working on that landscaping inside there this next year, so we can get more trees in and stuff like that. We're waiting on the netting going in there because the netting and cables and stuff were hanging down with a couple little trees we had in there, and so I didn't want to damage putting too many trees in there yet until we were all done. So we'll start putting more trees in there, and that's a lot of fun. The bees we'll keep moving forward with that and try to come up with some fun ideas for videos. I usually do probably 3-4 bee videos throughout the year. We'd only do maybe 2 to 3 videos a month. And then with the bees, I usually try to every type of video, like the emu egg one, like that was a month worth of filming. So usually we'll try to bring a lot of stuff together for one video. And I don't know yet. I don't know what the big project will be this next year. I'll have to start to think through that. We just finished with the aviary stuff, so I haven't even really moved on. Right now we're in the emu hatching egg season, so now my focus is on that. And then as soon as we come out of that, usually it's about the start of hatching season for our exotic birds, our mandarin ducks, pheasants, and then the start of bee season. So that's what something I'll have to work on over the next month or two, is think about what the next thing is.
There's always something to do on the homestead, I know. Maybe the bees will be one of your next projects, and maybe you can kind of develop it into a little bit more of a business for you. So I had a quick question for Eli before we kind of close out tonight. Eli, what is your favorite part of the homestead? What do you like doing the most? Is it the birds? Is it the bees? Is it something else? The horses? What do you enjoy doing the most?
Probably the birds.
Birds.
What part about the birds? What do you like about the birds? The aviary, the chickens. What do you like?
The aviary.
Yeah, you were a big part of that. You remember putting in what do you remember working on the aviary?
Lifting up the metal
sides. Yeah, the outer metal panels. We have like 55 or so outer panels, and each one weighed about 100 pounds. And so it'd be me and Becky, and then we're like, we can't lift it on our own. And so this was maybe 2 years ago. And so we couldn't have done it without him. He was our third person to help lift each of those panels into place. And then he would help put the concrete in for each post that each one would be put in. So that took an entire summer into fall a couple of years ago. That part. So that's something that, we're so glad it's done, but I'll never forget building that thing as a family. And we had a lot of fun the last couple of weeks going out there and just watching the birds. The ducks out on the pond is just a ton of fun, isn't it? Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Eli, do you have a favorite bird that's in that aviary?
Mandarin ducks.
The mandarin
ducks, he's saying.
Yeah, they're a beautiful bird.
Sure.
Right now it's winter, so we have the big coop, and so the peafowl and the pheasants all kind of hang out inside that coop right now because of how cold it is and the snow out. But the mandarin ducks sit out on the pond all day long. So right now that's about all we have to watch is the mandarins until it starts to warm up, and then all the birds will come out again.
Yeah,
that's cool.
You know, I've said if I had that in my backyard, the only thing that I could say that I would probably add would be I would put at least one, but I'd probably have to have two. I'd put 2 hives in there somewhere, and then I could just sit in the middle of there and just watch the bees. And then I could look over and I could watch the mandarins, watch the pheasants.
The birds and the bees.
Exactly. But then I had our work done.
I had one of our first hives I had by our garden because I was like, they'll pollinate the garden. And then it was too close. It was just a little too close to the hive, I guess. And so they started stinging the kids and Becky. I guess it was close enough, maybe 10, 15 feet away that they were defending their hive. And so I was instructed to move that hive out of there.
Yeah.
But I thought it was going to be an awesome thing for them to be right there to pollinate all the garden.
Yeah. Wow.
I saw one question here is a good one for Eli because it said, is he driving the farm truck yet? So what do you drive on the farm, Eli?
UTV?
Yeah, the Polaris Ranger. He's been driving that since he was maybe 6 or 7. He's 11 now, so he's been driving it for a few years.
Oh, I see it. Amber asked that.
Good deal.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So that's fun that we just have we got about 40 acres, so there's plenty of room that they can just drive around, and I don't have to worry about them hitting something.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Bruce, what's going to be coming up in the next week or so down in Southeast Alabama?
Well, right now I'm just kind of, I got new fondant patties on the bees last Friday on about half of them, maybe more than half probably. Didn't get it all done, and so I'm going to finish that up probably this Friday. I think Saturday's going to be kind of rainy and cold. I think that front's going to be moving through here. So, but I've got probably, pushing maybe 40 colonies left to put those on. And the bees are looking good. I'm eager to see I've got 2 routes for those who watch the channel. I want to call my northern route, which is kind of up north of where I live here, up in Ozark, Newton, Midland City area. And then I have a southern route, which is where Slocum and Appleton Farms are. The bees right now down south, it's only it's not that far, but it's probably 20 to 25 minute drive between. But they're doing better, they seem to be, than the ones up north. It's kind of strange. But I have my 2 biggest yards, north yards, I need to still check on. It took me a couple weeks to get all the fondant patties on them. So now I'm kind of going in the reverse, in the same direction. So I got the fondant back on them and replaced on the early ones I put on a few weeks ago. And now I'm going to finish that up this weekend. Just kind of peek in there and see, how they're looking, and not going to really go through them. Don't really need to do that. I'm just going to kind of peek in and put fondant. But I'm starting to gear up. I need to get my bee, I call it my bee bay, in the barn up there where I keep my bee stuff. Get it kind of cleaned up. It's just kind of a mess right now. And that's one of my goals. And then Greg's going to be bringing our boxes down here. He's delivering a bunch of boxes down here in Alabama for several people end of the month, January 31st. So I got to get it straightened up before he comes, because it's a mess right now. And that's kind of what I'm working on. And then I do, when it warms up enough to really dive into the hives, into the colonies, I'm going to try to do some mite washes and see how effective I think my treatments were. I think they were effective, but we're going to find out. And I'll do that when I can, as soon as I can. But I'm gearing up towards the middle of February, because that's got me some queens coming. So I'm going to start making some splits then. And then it's just, we're getting right on the very edge of bee season here. It starts really early here. And it is a little colder than usual here, so I don't know if the red maples are blooming, but usually the red maples are starting to bloom about now here in this part of the country. So whenever that solstice hits, the bees start to grow. That's just kind of how it is here. They just they start to grow, and obviously you're starting to have that little, even when it's cold, it's light a little bit longer in the day, and so you're starting to kind of get that little that little feel. I don't know what it is. It's a weird feel. Everybody, I'm sure, has experienced where you can just tell spring is coming, even though it's still winter. Just the days are getting a little bit longer every day, and it's getting exciting. I'm getting kind of excited about bee season. So, but as far as videos go, I've got my first episode, my day 1 of the Bee Expo is going to be coming out in the next couple of days. I just basically got to get it uploaded and a thumbnail done, and I'm going to try and do 2 or 3 videos from that. I just can't do it. I can't do it all in one. I just am not as good at Jake at cutting stuff down. So, but I don't know. I really didn't have a plan at that conference is what I wanted to video. And so I'm just kind of going to do almost like a little documentary of kind of what I experienced. And it's not going to be anything too special, but just my take, kind of what I saw and experienced. And so I hope you enjoy it, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Good stuff. Well, I tell you, here, we'll have nothing going on pretty much. I think Saturday will be the first day that we will be above freezing, and I think we're going to get to like 34 here, Northeast Ohio. But other than that, next week it will probably be, and this is about par for the course, for at least for up here. We're going to have those 2 nights where we're supposed to get down to -10, and that will be the actual temperature, not counting in the wind. So it's cold here. The only thing that I need to probably scoot over though within the next week, and Saturday, if I do get time, I may do it Saturday since it'll be 34. I need to check the fondant that's on all the colonies just to make sure that they still have fondant available. But other than that, really, there's not much here. So the only thing I'll say is Bruce needs to make sure he puts out a video at least once a week so that I can live through his adventures. So, because there's nothing here.
Yeah, I don't know, Jake, if you've had a chance. I just did a little short video this past just a few days ago, and man, you can see how the bees are looking down here. They're looking good, so it's pretty exciting. I did a lot. I had some real issues with mites late last summer into the fall, and just really did all I could to hammer the mites. I kind of documented that on the channel, but went in December when I was just starting my December treatments with oxalic acid vapor, and they were looking decent, but still not great. But man, about a month later, I went in this past Friday, and I don't know if it was me feeding them the fondant or if it was the mite treatments, a combination, or just the genetics. But for whatever reason, they're looking really strong, really good. Didn't go in and look at the brood, but man, they're just covering the frames on the top of the hives. They're looking really what I want to see. It's just beautiful thing to behold.
I cannot imagine working bees in January. That just blows my mind.
It was 50 degrees that day, so I wasn't really diving deep. I could have done a little bit if I needed to, but I wasn't diving deep into them. Now, honestly, if I have those queens and it's middle of February, and it's cold, 50 degrees, if I have queens, I got to get them in there. So I'll be doing some splits in that weather, but it's a little bit too cold, really. But they do okay. If you got a lot of population, they'll do okay. But I'd rather not dig deep into them unless it's a little bit warmer than that. So
insane. And Jake, I'll just say one last thing here. Just use caution, because Bruce is just, all he's going to do is smile. But what's going to happen is he's going to send you an email or something.
I need to get Jake's phone number so I can send him the pictures and get him on the because I screenshot my phone when it's like 75 degrees and sunny down here, and they're like 13 degrees up there in Ohio. Well, they love it when I do that.
What I'm getting at though is Bruce will have you. He has a great way of he sugarcoats it, and then you're going to be down there doing splits with them. You're going to be harvesting honey. It's all free labor.
Yeah,
it's all free labor.
I've got my methods. But anyway, it's fine. Anyway,
well, 2 hours. It's been. I tell you. I mean, Jake, you're going to have to come on again, buddy.
We brought the energy. We need that.
Telling you,
techno music.
Yeah, that's it. I know.
Eli, thanks for coming on too, Eli. It's good to see you,
man.
Yeah. Bruce, I'm not going to do the and I can't do the Greg Burns ending, so I'm going to pass it. I'm going to pass the baton to you, buddy.
I'd just like to remind everyone to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in the world. Thanks for joining us tonight, Jake and everybody else. I'll take care.
Good stuff, man. And I lost. They switched up where the end and things like that are. I don't know where it's at now. Here we go. All right. Well, everyone, like Bruce said, thanks for watching. Next week we will be on Bruce's channel, so tune in next week. And everybody, until the next one.